Welcome to the Awakened Goddess Show, your source for inspiration, wisdom, and personal discovery. The place to learn from a diverse mix of mentors, metaphysical experts, spiritual leaders, and best-selling authors from around the world. I'm your host, Angela Wilkinson. Join me as I explore the minds of my masterful guests while they share powerful insights and easy-to-use tools you can start using right away. Now, let's tap into the energy of the Awakened Goddess and be enlightened by today's guest. Tara Leduc is leading the movement to create the world we all want to see. Yes, inner peace to world peace is what gets her out of bed each morning. She's a speaker, writer, teacher, and inspirer for each of us to find peace right where we are. She's bringing us all together, changing the world piece by piece. Now let's welcome Tara to the show. Hi, I'm Angela Wilkinson, and welcome to this episode of the Awakened Goddess Show, where we co-create powerful, conscious conversations on the leading edge. Today I have Tara joining us, and we're going to be talking about how inner peace leads to world peace, and really the importance of getting centered and finding that inner peace within. We're also going to be talking about how we can find that peace right where we're at, but it doesn't necessarily always look peaceful. So welcome, Tara.
Hi, Angela. Thanks so much for having me on today. I'm so pleased to be here.
Yay! So, okay, let's start at the top. And why inner peace? What was the catalyst that led you to feel so passionate about finding inner peace?
Well, the first and most important reason is that you need to start right where you are. And this is actually a constant point of frustration for me, that the only thing I have control over is myself. Mm-hmm. So I need to start with me. We all need to start with ourselves. And what's so amazing is as we each begin to find peace within ourselves, we become more peaceful people. We start to emanate peace out from us to the people who are closest to us, our family, our friends, our coworkers, and it starts to go out into the community. And the next thing you know, we're all like cell towers emitting a signal of peace. And my goal is to go for global coverage. Can you hear me now?
Cute. I love that. So I imagine that there was a turning point in your life where peace was something that really came to the forefront. Because peace is something, it's nice, but I don't think that we come into this world thinking, oh, I'm going to be, that's not going to be my purpose in life, is to create inner peace and world peace. So I would like to hear what that was.
So it started really at the moment that my first fiance changed his mind shortly before the wedding. And I was absolutely devastated. I was crushed, and I lost my peace and lost my voice. I really lost my ability to express myself. And in the months that followed, a lump grew where my voice had been, and I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer, which, spoiler alert, is not generally life-threatening. But so I started to move through, and I was treated once and cured, and then it came back. And I was treated a second time and cured, and then it came back. And it wasn't until the third time that I really started to dig deep and look for what is the message in this. Because on this show, we know that when life starts giving you repeat messages like that, you need to start looking, what is the message here?
Right.
And as I started down a road of yoga and inner conversations and deepening my awareness and all sorts of spiritual practices, I realized that as I began to find my peace, I also began to find my voice, and that I needed to use my voice to help others find their peace. And as we all found our peace, we would create world peace together.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my purpose. It wasn't easy, it wasn't momentary. It took 7 or 8 years of going round and round, and until I started to, as we say here, wake up, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I love how you talk about using your voice because I think a lot of us have been taught to tone it down or be quiet or not speak your truth. People don't want to hear it, or whatever messages those were. And so I love how you're talking about this inner peace. And really, we look at what's going on around the world right now and all of the turmoil, and we all can use more inner peace. And by finding that, it will certainly spread out. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's inner peace is something that we can find maybe not literally in every moment, but it is potentially accessible in every moment. It doesn't matter where we are. I think, admittedly, I've never thankfully been in a war situation, but I think even in Syria, I recently watched the documentary on the white helmets, and I could sense that even in that war torn, desperate situation, they were still finding peace in service, and peace in family, and peace in community. So even in the most dire situations, it can still be found if you can remember what is most important.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, and I think when we're connected to what is most important, then we naturally become more peaceful. When we're
Mhm.
able to ground ourselves in what's important for us, then yeah, when we come in contact with that, it's like we feel much more settled.
Exactly. Exactly. Peace begets peace, really. So whether you find peace through a meditation or a yoga practice, or whether you find peace in the kitchen making the best spaghetti sauce ever, or you find peace playing guitar, or you find peace having coffee with your bestie, it doesn't matter. It's your experience of peace, how calming it is for you and your body, and then how calming it is for people who are around you. We all know someone that we would think of as peaceful, and it feels great to be around that person because they are emitting this signal of peace.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And like you said, it's a ripple effect. It's like
It
there are certain people that can walk into a room of chaos, and then the whole room, everyone settles.
is. And isn't that amazing? And we all know what that feels like. Even sometimes I end up in conversations about energy. And I think we know there's a lot of people who don't necessarily believe in energy and energy healing and all that kind of stuff. But everyone knows what it's like to be around someone who's really angry and that you can feel that, or someone who's generally really grounded and they don't get thrown off their center easily, and they are really calming to a household, to a workplace, maybe even to a larger venue. Right? It's incredible that someone can put out that kind of peaceful energy.
Yes. Well, and I know on earlier shows we've talked about the toroidal field and how around our heart, as we're in that space, that grounded, centered space, and we're really coming from our heart, then that energy radiates out, and that's how other people feel it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's organizations such as HeartMath that are measuring it using proven science that, well, I mean, I guess science is a bad thing in culture at the moment, but I still think science is real.
Well, really, no one knows what is real anymore. It's like our ideas is the more we expand our awareness, the it's like what's that saying? The more you know, the less you feel like you know, or the less you really know.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have felt like that. The more and more I deepen my spiritual practice, the
Mhm.
more I definitely feel like I know, and the more I can just sense is out there that I am not aware of yet.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
and in a way, that's really fun because the
Yeah.
seeking is fascinating.
It is. It
Hmm.
is. And that's why I love this show is we're always having these conversations that, we never know where we're going to go. And it's all about pushing the limits, the comfort zones. And because I think we get so limited, we have the tendency to, we're so focused in our life as we know it that
Hmm.
often because of the speed of life, we forget to really look outside and say, wow, how can I really expand? And how I see it is that that expansion is where we're really becoming our best selves. It's like the more we can expand our energy field,
Hmm.
the bigger we are. And then we're truly stepping into our greater selves versus this little limited, I'm staying in my comfort zone and I don't want to push the boundaries. I don't want to take those risks. So that's just my little thought.
I'm a big fan of adventure and risk taking myself. There's nothing like it. I One of my true loves in this world is international travel.
Mm-hmm.
And this is another way that this is probably why I believe that world peace is possible. Because the more and more I travel, the more cultures I experience. I've visited more than 50 countries so far, and I'm far from done. And the more I go and meet people where they are, and things go wrong when you travel. One of my first really tough experiences as a solo traveler was losing my wallet on a
Oh
yeah, in a car. It was a taxi in Burma, which is currently called Myanmar. So this is back in 1988. I was just this cute little thing
no.
from northern Canada traveling alone in Asia, and I lost my wallet and I was left effectively penniless, right?
Wow.
And yeah, and that was when that was when I realized that the real currency is human kindness because I waited. Someone said, "Oh, maybe you'll get your wallet back when that vehicle arrives at its next stop. Maybe they'll find it on the floor." And so I waited and waited, and my friends left, and I waited and waited. And finally, someone was kind enough to say, "I'm so sorry. There's just too much money in that wallet for anyone here to be able to give it back. You should really go." So I did. I went to the train station and then I had no ticket to get on the train. So I jumped on a train that was going to the right destination, but jumped on it at the local person's third class, which was chickens and goats and kids and people everywhere, like the most developing world image that you can have. There were just people everywhere. And someone approached me. He was a university student. He said, "Can I help you?" And he helped me climb over dozens of people to finally get to the back of the train and meet the conductor. I said, "Please, sir, please just allow me on the train. I have no money. I lost my wallet, etc., etc. I don't even need a seat. I'll sleep on the floor. Please don't kick me off the train. I need to get back to Rangoon. I have a flight. My visa will run out. Like everything will be a disaster." And I'm quite sure he risked his job to
Mm.
allow me to stay on that train. And I did sleep on the floor. But as the sun rose the next morning, that was when I really learned what was happening. The train conductor and the other employees, who were obviously, economically very poor, but clearly spiritually very rich, they invited me to sit with them. They shared their breakfast with me. They
Mm.
had bread and tea, and they shared it with me, and they were so kind. And then it turned out that I was in a car with Burmese first class, so the highest level, the wealthiest people, and probably the best educated. So although no one had spoken to me, they had obviously understood what I had been saying. So the next thing you know, food started being passed to me through the car. More food, more food. Finally, I was full. I didn't want to say, I don't want to say no, thank you. But the most touching moment, one man, as he was getting off the train, he handed me a fistful of cash and he said, "This is for tomorrow."
Oh.
This is what happens when you leave your home and you end up in dire straits. And my lesson is that we are all different, and yet we are all the same.
Mm-hmm.
You know, don't you think, Angela, that if you saw someone in the street who was, they just fell on tough luck, they were in trouble, wouldn't you pass them a little something just to help them? Whether you
Mm-hmm.
gave them a ride, whether you gave them some cash, whatever, right? This is how we are. This is how we are. This is why world peace is possible, because the vast majority of us are kind at our core, and we do things when people need help. It's what
Mm-hmm.
we do. We share our tea, we share our coffee, we share our meals. Everywhere I've ever traveled, that's how people are hospitable. That's how we connect. Is we sit and we break bread and we share, and we connect and we have conversations. This is universal,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and it's beautiful. Humans are beautiful.
Yes. Yes, and I think that your story is a perfect example of how, it could have gone a couple different ways, right? Like if you were not connecting to yourself, if you were kind of caught up in the drama of what was happening, I mean, it could have you could have had a whole different experience. But because you were able to stay at some level centered and you knew where you needed to go
Mhm,
and you were open to other people helping you, then you
mhm,
were able to receive that. But I think that when we look at how we can get so caught up and wrapped up in the drama, whether it's the government or what's going on in the news or whatever, those things can get us off center. And when we do that, it's like we can't see all of the gifts and the blessings around us.
mhm.
Is that what you've experienced as well?
Absolutely. Lately, it feels like American society in particular. I'm Canadian, so I'm a little bit outside, but it especially feels like American society is deeply polarized.
Yes.
That that if you vote Republican, you're evil, or if you're a Republican, you think Democrats are evil, and the middle ground is disappearing.
Hmm.
But the bottom line is, when I go down to the States, that's what we call it, the States. But when I go south and I travel through the USA, I meet kind people. And I have American friends who are either Republican or Democrat, and I can't put them in the same room because they'll get in a fight. But I can love them for who they are, and I can see that they're still wonderful, giving, kind people. And it's so sad to me that I can't bring them in the same room because I still see their light.
Hmm.
I think this is what we're starting to lose. Things are so polarized. The same thing seems to be happening in Europe and in the UK with Brexit. People are forgetting that we came from the same place. That throughout history, the reason we managed to be at peace at all is because we're kind, because we help strangers, that we help refugees. We take in people who need help. We
Hmm.
all do that. It doesn't matter who you vote for. It's what we do.
Yes.
And we're forgetting.
Yeah, it's that human spirit and
Mhm,
connecting on the that level, the soul level,
mhm,
where it doesn't matter class or color or education. It's simply human to human.
mhm. Yeah. Honestly, it's this is just something that I have seen time and time again. I live in Vancouver in Canada, and this is a very cosmopolitan city. We have immigrants from dozens of countries, I think, literally. Our voting ballots, actually, our citywide voting ballots are in 12 languages. I am not joking.
Wow.
Yeah. So I live in a part of town that's very, very close to where a lot of Indian immigrants are, like people from India. Sometimes they don't even speak English. And during their festival times, I will go to parts of town and I'm the only blondie in the on the block. And there's something in me that expects, I don't know why, there's something that expects them not to be nice to me. And
Hmm.
happily, I keep proving myself wrong. They are so nice. I was shopping for local Indian clothing when it was on sale. And once again, I was the only blondie in the whole store. And the ladies were saying, "Oh, that color is so beautiful for you. You should definitely get that one. Yes, the price is very fair. You should get that. You look so nice." I thought, well, here we go. Once again, we're just a bunch of ladies shopping for clothes. We want to look great. And they're admiring me, they're flattering me. We were in community in that
Yeah.
moment. It's so great.
Yes. Well, what comes to mind is I don't know if you watched Sex in the City when it was on, but it was the second movie where they were, I think they were in not Dubai, they were in another city,
I want to say
and
Abu Dhabi.
yes, Abu Dhabi. And at the very end, do you remember at the very end, Samantha's purse like went everywhere, or they broke the purse or something, and then the women that were dressed, they took them and into like their little hideaway, and then they unwrapped themselves when all the women were together in this room, and they had these beautiful clothes underneath. It's like, yeah, like you say, we're all seeking inner
Yeah.
peace. We're all seeking a lot of the same things for our lives.
Mhm.
And there's another thing that I remember seeing not too long ago where there was a company that was doing DNA testing, and they were looking at how people were connected. And wow, what an experience to realize that, yes, you think you might be French or German or, you know, whatever you think that you are. And then when you actually do the test, you realize you are a much greater mix of culture and ethnicity. And it was just so interesting to see how people that were maybe kind of judgmental of others were
Mhm.
then now coming together because they realized that they had that connection.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's absolutely true. I think I've seen there's a video that goes around on Facebook about that, and it starts out with people kind of standing apart and then
Mhm.
realizing, oh, I've got 5% of this or 15% of this, and they realize that maybe distantly they're connected by blood. And in that video, they all start to, you can almost see them drop whatever it was that they brought in that said, "We are different. I am
Yes.
not you." And they start to realize, "I am you. You are me. We are cousins in a way. We are all the same."
Now for a quick break. Have you created vision boards, listened to meditations, and read books on how the law of attraction works, yet you're still not where you want to be? That's why I created the Envision Experience, a revolutionary and simple 28-day process for powerful quantum level dream manifesting. Over 4 weeks, you'll get laser focused guidance, accountability, support, plus a powerful personalized movie to help you envision and embody your dreams into reality. You can find out more at theawakenedgoddess.com/envision experience. Now back to the show.
One of the other experiences that I've been so lucky to have is that I have been among many different cultures when they pray. And that is an experience of deep peace. I remember one time I was in a Buddhist temple in Kathmandu, Nepal. And as you enter, you can feel your shoulders release. You can feel this palpable peace. It's phenomenal. There's incense wafting, and you can maybe hear some chanting, Om Mani Padme Om. And the monks are walking round and round clockwise. And the tourists are walking, the locals are walking, and some people are chatting, some people are chanting, but you can't help but drop in step and drop into their same heart space. You can feel it. It's incredible. I volunteered in West Africa in a Muslim country, and I lived with a Muslim family. And so I was so lucky that although I don't know how to pray with them, I could be with them while the entire family prayed together. And I am telling you, as they're all moving together, they move as one, with the eldest man of the household at the front, and then they all go back in the order that is prescribed by their religion. But they're all moving, they're all praying, they're all saying the same thing, and it is incredible to be around. I've been in Hindu Ghats, which is where they cremate their dead. And as a Westerner, wow, I am not used to being around dead bodies. We are very, very funny about death, right?
Very sterile, yes.
Like it doesn't happen, and we shouldn't let kids come to funerals, and it's all very odd. But there, the family goes, let's say a husband dies, his wife will go into a period of mourning. She will wear only white. She will eat very bland food, which is, again, prescribed by her religion. She will shave her head sometimes, and she will do a process of honoring her husband, a long process of mourning. I think it's 3 months, although I'm not totally sure. But the family will wrap the body in a shroud and bring it very quickly. They don't refrigerate, they don't do all that kind of stuff. Within, I think by the next sun up, it's time to cremate the body. And for me, it was quite an experience because the smell is quite strong, and it's psychically and spiritually, I found it difficult to be around. But at the same time, the people are not, they're sad, they're mourning. But this is a peaceful time. There are priests that their primary job is to work at these ghats and tend the fires. Mm-hmm. And this is deep service to humanity. And I sat there with my husband right after we were married. We sat in the ghats and for hours and watched these fires and just watched what happened, the offerings that were put on the bodies. And then the true cycle of life, the poorest of the poor were walking in the river beside. As the body is burned, the ashes are eventually, and anything that isn't burned, the offerings, everything all goes into the river. Once again, as a Westerner, it feels dirty. Mm-hmm. But you're watching, this is how they do it. This is their process. And the poorest of the poor would be walking in that river and through the ashes, through the shrouds, whatever's left, but also picking out the treasures that they could resell. And that's how they would survive. Mm. This was true cycle of life. One family's loss was another family's gain. There was no judgment. This was life. It just goes round and round. We're all here together. We all experience gain. We all experience loss. We all experience birth. We all experience death. I say a lot, the cost of living is dying. This will happen. It will come. It was fascinating to watch. And yeah. And to be in these cultures, in these deeply sacred spiritual times, I feel so lucky to witness that. Because this is the depth of humanity. This is what we do. This is our peace. This is our life. Mm-hmm. This is how I know that world peace is possible. This is what we do.
Yes. Well, and as you're talking, and describing your experience,
Mhm.
I thought about the judgment um, that we often we have this tendency to go to judgment. Now, judgment, we have to judge
Mhm.
just our experiences to kind of figure out where it fits in our framework of our life. And we judge things as positive and negative and all of this. But it seems like judgment is a big piece to keeping ourselves away from that inner peace, is when we're judging things and seeing them outside of ourselves or pushing them away because we think that they're bad or wrong or whatever the judgment is that we're attaching to it.
Mhm. I think one word that I love to use is discernment. And it's a synonym for judging, but I feel like it loses the bad connotations.
Mm-hmm.
If we discern what is right for us and what is not a great fit, that feels, I don't know, honoring or sacred to me, and it feels a little cleaner than judging. But, it's just a word. I do think that there can be a real judgment about things that are different than what we do and things that we don't understand yet. I think if we can attempt to keep compassion within us as we go into a situation that we initially don't like, that feels uncomfortable, that feels wrong or weird or off, and if we can stay with at least a bit of an open heart and a certain amount of compassion, and if you're able to believe me that we are all different and yet we are all the same, and come into any situation like that, whether it's an argument with your spouse or driving in traffic and somebody cut you off, or you're at the polls and someone's voting for the wrong party, or any terrorist from another country, it just keeps going, different levels of difficulty, and it can be hard to have any compassion. But so often, if we're ever able to look at it from someone else's point of view, the vast majority of time, I truly believe someone is doing what they thought was the right thing. When it feels like someone has wronged us, the vast majority of time, I think that it was just a misunderstanding or a miscommunication, that they truly thought you would want a hamburger, even though what you really meant was a tuna sandwich. Or, you know, fighting with your spouse can be the perfect example. One of the things I say is that peace is not necessarily peaceful. And I think a long marriage is a perfect example that sometimes you need to remember, you need to keep the faith that right now I am fighting and I just about hate him, but part of me still, right? Like, it can be so hard. But if part of you can remember that you love this person, if part of you can remember that you're on this journey together, that you're in this relationship together, that, you know, he probably did not mean to hurt your feelings or say something horrible. One of the sayings they used to say to me in Africa, and I loved it so much, they used to say to me that a husband and wife are like a tongue and teeth in the same mouth. And sometimes you may accidentally bite your tongue, but it doesn't mean that you should pull out all your teeth or chop off your tongue.
That's a great saying.
Right? Sometimes, yes, my teeth hurt my tongue, but we're all still living together in my same mouth.
Yes. Well, and it's true because there are times that we can't stand our partner, our children, our
Hmm?
parents, our siblings, people around us.
Hmm.
And so, okay, so when this turmoil comes up, and, you know, it's been interesting because lately I've been hearing about, and of course this happens all the time, but family
Hmm.
members, thinking about family members, brothers and sisters, and them disagreeing to the point where they don't even talk to each other.
Mm.
It's interesting. Like it's like I think almost every family has a situation like that.
Not it. I don't know if I've ever done an interview and not thrown my husband under the bus at some point. So now, true story. I am not exaggerating. I have lived in this house for almost 5 years. My husband's sister lives down the block, and I have literally never met her. Never met her. One time she said hello to me, but it was by accident because we were all at parent teacher interviews at the high school. And she was on her phone, and we walked by and said hi. And she said hi back before she realized who had said that.
Is that
What it,
because your
yeah,
husband and her don't have a relationship, or
yep,
oh,
yeah.
interesting.
And I could get sucked into all of this,
Hmm.
but clearly it has nothing to do with me. And this actually is another really important thing for inner peace, right?
Hmm.
What is mine and what is not mine? And in this case, she literally has never met me. She has no idea who I am and what I do and what I stand for. And she still won't talk to me. Well,
Maybe she doesn't have inner peace.
I don't know, maybe she does, but there's obviously a lot of anger. And similarly, my husband and I have talked about this a lot because it is very uncomfortable to me that he has someone that he no longer speaks to, that
Hmm.
he was raised with. I mean, I'm sure when they were little, they were in the same bathtub together, right? Like, you've been together all your life. And now they literally don't speak. And, and it's very hard for me. It's so out of my character. But for the peace in my marriage, I've had to stop talking about it, except for apparently on the internet and on TV. But in my house, I can't talk about it because he has gotten to a point where he put a lot of energy into this and he tried to repair the energy, tried to repair the relationship. And he feels that he worked very hard on it. And
Hmm.
eventually he had to draw a line so that he could find peace in himself, that ultimately he had done what he could and she didn't want to engage. And this is very difficult for me as someone who's all about peace and conflict resolution. This goes against everything in me. And yet sometimes you have to draw a boundary and you have to discern, is this a battle I need to keep fighting? And
Hmm.
sometimes, and I think this is a very difficult decision, sometimes you have to let it drop.
Right, right.
But I hold space that sometime it will change.
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
hope.
you never know, and the best thing you can do is hold that space. I'm glad you're enjoying today's episode of the Awakened Goddess Show. I want to take just a moment to thank all of the listeners and viewers who've donated to the show, because the Awakened Goddess Show is community supported. That means it's 100% donation based. So if the show has been meaningful for you, it's inspired you, or has been helpful in any way, I ask you to support the show. All donations go towards producing the show, keeping it on the air, as well as keeping the archives available free anywhere in the world. So thank you for your contribution and everything you're doing to support the Awakened Goddess Show. I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. You can go to theawakenedgoddess.com/donate to show your support. And if you're not able to donate financially today, there are many ways you can support the show. You can share the show with your community, subscribe, and leave the show a 5-star review on iTunes. Because without your help, the show wouldn't be possible. Now let's pick up where we left off. Back to the show. So I think you bring up a really good point about, you said this piece about that it's not about you. And I think, when we have conflict with other people, that it's easy to make it about ourselves. And,
Hmm.
really, I think we're really only responsible for our own reaction. And
Hmm.
so I would love for you to speak more about that.
Yes. Well, this goes right back to one of the first things I said is that it is actually a constant source of frustration for me that I am only in control of myself. Because to be honest, I think that I should be the benevolent queen of the universe, but I don't have all the votes yet. So, but it's you have to start with where you are. But one of the things you talked about is we tend to take on too much responsibility. I would say sometimes we feel that it's all our fault, and sometimes we feel it's all someone else's fault. And I think there is an important place of inquiry there for all of us about, okay, what was my role in this conflict?
Mhm.
What did I do? Here's an example from my life. So last Sunday, I got fired from my job teaching yoga. And and I won't lie, I was pretty upset about it. I love teaching yoga. I love it. It brings me a lot of peace. My students loved it. And I was like, bitch, 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 right? But then as I felt into it, I allowed myself to feel whatever came up. I was sad, I mourned, I was kind of angry. But then I could get really honest with myself and say, okay, for the last 9 months, I have been traveling really quite a lot for business, or sometimes I'm just way too busy during the day. And by 6 o'clock at night, when it's class time, I don't have any more to give. And so I have asked for the owners to find a sub teacher for me many times. And for their business, I was not showing up and really honoring their business and giving my best effort. The classes I taught were great and my students had a wonderful experience. But the bottom line is, my heart and soul and most of my time and energy is on my own thing and my own business, my own family, my own health. So when I got really honest about it, I had a huge role in the fact that they needed to cut me loose and replace me with someone who would be more reliable and more committed to the opportunity they were offering.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, and
So,
that's like a perfect example of how sometimes we unconsciously sabotage ourselves
mhm,
in that, well, I don't know that it was sabotage. It was sabotage in that you got fired, but
mm,
it also, on the other hand, helped you because your passion is about your business and spreading peace, and it gave you like a little kick in the butt to move you in that direction to focus more of your time and energy there.
mhm. Well, and one of the things we talk about in our community is energy leaks. And the story I was telling myself was this was just 1 hour a week. Of course, I could manage 1 hour a week. I love it. I work online. I'm not around actual human beings. So, how great to be in front of actual people and seeing their reaction and feeling their energy in the moment. But maybe that 1 hour a week was an energy drain on me. I was leaking. And it turns out I was probably leaking for their business as well. So another thing that I could look back at, they actually asked me really early on, do I really have time for this? And I said, yeah, yeah, of course. It's only 1 hour a week. I love it. But they obviously knew what they were asking. All of our intuitive hits were ignored.
Yes.
Ignored. We all knew I was too busy, but I
Yeah.
wanted to do it. I love to throw yet more things on my plate. So that is my self-sabotage, is yet another thing on my plate.
Well, but I love that we're talking about this because I know that I think we all, unless we're really, really disciplined about letting things go, I think we all, every single person that's listening or watching, has something in their life that is an energy leak. So, meaning that your life force energy is kind of in an area that it's out of alignment in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like that little, it's like stick a little hole in a air pillow, right? And it slowly leaks the air out of the pillow until it's flat.
Exactly. Exactly. And you think, oh, is that tiny little pinprick, is it really going to do anything?
No.
Well, when you wake up tomorrow morning and you're flat on the floor instead of on a lovely air mattress, well, I guess it did something.
Right.
And
Right.
we don't notice, but this is part of getting quiet within ourselves. What so many of the practices I talk about and the practices I suggest to people are about going within and looking at your own situation, looking at your heart, looking at your responsibility in a situation, whatever, journaling, meditating. But you need to get quiet and you need to ask yourself the questions to even notice, are you
Mm-hmm.
leaking energy all over the place? Are you serving yourself well? And then the other thing that came up for me as you started talking about energy leaks and I don't know why I thought you were going to talk about boundaries, so that was what happened in my head, but boundaries are a very healthy thing to set with other people, with ourselves, with our time. And I personally find it a very hard line to walk between being a very giving, generous person and looking after myself well and being an adventurous person. I say yes to, well, apparently too many things. I was going to say maybe it's too many things. And I don't want to miss an adventure. I don't want to miss an opportunity. But I think there's many people who are maybe afraid to take on the things that will make them uncomfortable. I will be too busy. I will be frightened. I don't want to go to India because I might eat weird food or get sick.
I
But if
might lose my wallet.
I might lose my wallet. But on the other hand, you might see the best that humanity has to offer.
Mhm.
And we're all just trying our best. And you show up and you screw up and you show up some more and you screw up some more. And hopefully you can be compassionate to others, but also compassionate to yourself
Yes.
and say, you know what? Oh, well, I took on too many things. I didn't serve the studio well. They had to fire me. I'm compassionate to me. I'm compassionate to them. Oh, well, I forgive me. I forgive them. I'm going to try some more stuff.
Well, it could have been the Pringles and the wine that you take to class, right?
It is a true fact. I think people imagine a yoga teacher being so serene and relaxed, and her voice is very gentle and throaty. And then I'm the one, I will be in a I will be in a yoga workshop and I get tired. And the next thing you know, I have accidentally dropped an F bomb, that F word out loud. Oops. In yoga class. Oh well, I'm still human. And
Life is not supposed to be perfect. That's so boring.
oh well, I bet a lot of your listeners know what chaturanga is, and it's hard. And if I have to do 10 of them in a row, things may be a little less pretty than they are right now.
Well, isn't that true though? I think we think we need to look a certain way, sound a certain way, that whole perfect thing, be good enough, and I think that's like one of our journeys as human beings is learning to let all of that go and be yourself, and that whole thing about we are unique but we're the same. it's not good to have everybody be the same because that's boring. That's
Mhm.
what you got to be yourself and be okay with your flaws and your quirkiness and all that
And
weird stuff.
that is not easy. That is peace practice in itself. Can you be more kind to yourself?
Yes.
It can be really tough, especially if something went really sideways and you feel really responsible. It can be
Mhm.
very, very hard to be kind to yourself in that case.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And to be kind in a balanced way where you're not over blaming yourself, but you're not under blaming. You're not just like this scenario. You have to take the right amount of responsibility for your role in a situation,
Mhm.
not too much and not too little. And that is tricky,
Mhm.
really tricky.
Mhm.
And you need huge, heaping amounts of forgiveness and self compassion to do that and to accept you're never going to get it perfect. You can just do what you can do.
Yes.
One of the things I say a lot, actually, is I had to stop doing my best. And it's so funny. I was about to say it again. Oh, you just do your best in any situation. But I found I've got, I must be drawn to yoga and peace because I have a pretty strong type A in my personality. And when I say I will do my best, I actually mean that I will be the best on the planet. That give me another hour and I can make it even better. Give me another week. I can make it even better. I can try harder. I can sacrifice more. I can push more boulders uphill farther than anyone. And by saying, I will do my best, unleashed a degree of crazy inside my head.
I can see why. If you're always trying to kind of do another level better, and it's like you're competing with yourself.
Yeah,
Just keep up leveling. That is not peaceful. That's not inner peace.
that is not peaceful. I had a really interesting conversation with my stepdaughter a couple summers ago. She, oh, she's the cutest. She's such a great kid. And she was, I think, she was in grade 7. So seventh grade is what you guys call it. So I think she was 12, almost 13. And, or maybe 13, almost 14. And she had competed in the local track meet, come first in her school, and then qualified for the provincials, which is, I don't know, you guys would call it state
Mm,
championships or
yes.
something. I don't know. Anyway, I'm trying to translate. So she qualified for a meet downtown, and she didn't really say much to us about it. Obviously, she couldn't go down all by herself. So she eventually mentioned it, and I said, "Why is it that you don't want anyone to come and watch you?" And she said, "Well, I'm going to lose, and I'm going to lose badly."
Oh.
What do you mean by that? And she said, "Oh, like probably fifth or sixth." And I said, "Fifth or sixth in British Columbia? That's kind of awesome." Well, I don't know. So we had quite a conversation about what is a winner and what is a loser. And I was asking her questions. I said, "Okay, if you get a gold medal in the Olympics, do you win?" "Yes." "If you get a silver?" "Loser."
Mm,
"Okay." "So if you got the world record?" "Win." "What if someone then beats your world record?" "You're a loser."
yeah.
I said, "Oh, sweetheart, this is a tough attitude to go through life with. There will always be someone who's faster or better or prettier or smarter or more peaceful or more anything than you are. She wants to be an entrepreneur when she's older." And I said, "Someone will always make more money. Someone will always make a better product. Someone will always do it better in some certain way."
Hmm.
I said, "And you need to define success for yourself." She also wants to have a family and kids. I said, "So do you want to be working so much and making the most money, but then you never see your family?" Oh, she didn't want that. I said, you know, you get to define this for yourself. And this is important, not just for her as a young person, but for all of us to think about what is success. This is another way to find peace, that I had to find peace by saying, I'm not going to do my best anymore because I was making myself bananas.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe someone else, they need to rise and it feels great to say, I will do my best. But we all need to find what is success for us. Is what mix of conditions in our life signifies success? What if the way you are exactly right now, messy hair, don't care, means you're successful anyway, successful right now, perfect as you are? What if that could be your truth?
Yeah.
Wow, that is peaceful.
I understand you have a quick little exercise that I think that would be beautiful to wrap us up. And I think it's like perfect as we close.
Good.
So, yes.
So, I'm glad you brought us back to this. So, this is one of my favorite exercises, and I literally have taught this on the street to strangers sometimes because it's that easy to take on. It's so fun to teach it to kids. You can teach it to anyone. And so, all you do is you place one hand on your heart and you place the other one on top of that. If you feel comfortable and it's safe to close your eyes, please do so. And become aware of the energy underneath your hands. Become aware of your heart. As you breathe, send your breath into your heart. Every time you breathe in, feel that energy get just a little bit stronger. Begin to see your heart like a glowing coal in fire. So every time you breathe in, it glows a little brighter. When you breathe out, it dims a bit, but it doesn't go out. Every time you breathe in, it gets brighter and brighter. And you feel your heart energy more and more. Just keep breathing into your heart. Feel the energy of your heart. Feel it expand out from your heart into the rest of your chest, into your back. Send that energy down your legs to your toes. Send that energy out your arms, right into your fingers. And allow that heart energy to come up into your head. And as you open your eyes, know that your heart energy is shining out of your eyes. There you go.
Beautiful.
That is
I love that.
Practice.
Yes. It's like it immediately grounds you and like really locks in, like gets you centered and anchored. So thank you. Woo.
Welcome. You're welcome. And I do have a free gift for the listeners called the Inner Peace Toolkit. And
Beautiful.
breathing into your heart is one of the tools that I have in there. It's just 5 quick tools. Each practice is under 5 minutes because we're all busy people and we want to get peace right now. So this is what I want to give to people. Ways to find peace in under 5 minutes so that you can feel better way.
Good. All right. So we will have a link for that in the Awakened Goddess community on Facebook. So y'all can come get that. So Tara, thank you so much for this beautiful conversation. Oh my goodness. It really helped me understand, again, just like reinforce that idea of how important it is for us to each have that inner peace and have good boundaries for ourselves and only take responsibility for what is ours. Mm-hmm. So thank you for that reminder. It was awesome.
Mm-hmm. And I have one parting final thought for you.
Okay.
You are already perfect in your imperfections.
Yes.
You are already perfect and whole and complete.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Awakened Goddess Show. I hope you enjoyed today's guest and got something you can start using in your life right away. For more spiritual insights and to listen to more episodes, subscribe to The Awakened Goddess Show at theawakenedgoddess.com and discover wisdom that'll change your life.